the blink of an eye, the earth shudders, the ocean retreats, and then a wall of water comes crashing back. For those who survive a tsunami, life is never the same. Today, on Tectonic Truths, we're diving into the real, harrowing stories of people who lived through nature's most terrifying waves. These are their accounts of fear, resilience, and survival against impossible odds. Tsunamis are not like regular waves. They don't curl and crash gently onto beaches. They arrive as towering walls of water, fast, forceful, and destructive beyond comprehension. They often begin with an undersea earthquake, when tectonic plates shift violently at subduction zones, where one plate plunges beneath another. It can displace massive amounts of water. This sudden push triggers a tsunami. In deep ocean water, a tsunami wave might only rise a few feet and go unnoticed by ships, but don't be fooled, it can travel as fast as a commercial jet, up to 500 miles per hour. As it nears land and the ocean floor shallows, the wave slows down but grows dramatically in height. It's this transformation from silent traveler to monstrous surge that makes tsunamis so dangerous. Tsunamis can also be caused by volcanic eruptions, underwater landslides, or even asteroid impacts. But over 80% of tsunamis occur in the Pacific Ocean, along the infamous Ring of Fire, where tectonic plates constantly grind and collide. Early warning systems have been developed using ocean buoys and seismic data. Yet, even with minutes of warning, the sheer speed and unpredictability of tsunamis make survival incredibly difficult. The most terrifying part, often there is no towering wave at all, just a vast, massive flood of water sweeping inland, swallowing everything in its path. For many survivors, the first sign wasn't the wave, it was the silence. Birds stopped chirping, dogs barked wildly, and then the ocean began to disappear. One of the most common and chilling tsunami precursors is a sudden retreat of water from the shoreline. In some cases, the sea pulls back hundreds of meters, revealing the ocean floor littered with stranded fish, coral, and seaweed. To the unaware, this can look like a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle. Children run onto the exposed seabed. Curious tourists take photos. But to locals who have seen it before, it's a terrifying omen, a signal that a massive wave is coming fast. In 2004, during the Indian Ocean tsunami, many tourists in Thailand were mesmerized by the sudden retreat of the sea. A few, recalling stories from their childhood or warnings from elders, ran for higher ground. They survived. Many others did not. Animals seem to sense the danger before humans do. Elephants in Sri Lanka broke their chains and ran inland before the wave hit. Birds flew to the treetops. Even ants were seen climbing walls. Nature, it seems, knows what's coming. The warning signs can also include a loud roar, like a freight train, or a low-flying jet, growing louder as the wave nears. But for some, the warning is nothing more than the earth shaking beneath their feet. In those first minutes, survival depends entirely on how quickly people recognize these signs and take action. On the morning of December 26, 2004, a massive undersea earthquake struck off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia, measuring 9.1 on the Richter scale. It was one of the most powerful quakes ever recorded, but what followed was even more devastating. A tsunami that would kill over 230,000 people across 14 countries. In Banda Aceh, Indonesia, the waves reached over 100 feet high. Entire neighborhoods were erased in seconds. Concrete buildings crumbled. Cars and buses floated like toys. Survivors recall the moment the wave hit as surreal, like watching a nightmare unfold in real life. One man, Ramad, a father of two, had just stepped outside to check on his neighbors. He saw the wave coming and screamed for his family to run. They climbed to the roof of a nearby mosque. From there, they watched their home disappear beneath a churning sea of debris and bodies. In Thailand, tourists enjoying their morning by the beach were caught completely off guard. A woman named Anna, visiting from Sweden, was knocked unconscious by the first wave. When she woke, she was floating in a pool of broken furniture, trees, and torn clothing. She clung to a wooden doorframe for hours until help arrived. In Sri Lanka, a passenger train carrying over 1,500 people was swept off its tracks by the tsunami. Known as the Queen of the Sea, the train became one of the deadliest single incidents in tsunami history. Over 1,200 passengers perished. These are just a few among thousands of stories, many untold, many too painful to relive. What makes the 2004 tsunami so haunting is not just the number of lives lost, but the moments of chance and instinct that separated survivors from the missing. On March 11, 2011, at 2:46 p.m. local time, a magnitude 9.0 earthquake struck off the northeast coast of Japan. It was the most powerful quake ever recorded in the country's history, and it set off a tsunami that would devastate entire cities within minutes. In Miyako, a city on Japan's eastern coast, sirens blared. People had only minutes to escape. Many rushed to designated evacuation towers or higher ground, but the wave was relentless, reaching over 130 feet in some areas. A woman named Haruka, then 19, was working at her family's restaurant near the shoreline. She had experienced earthquakes before, but this one felt different. She barely made it to the second floor before a wall of water shattered the windows below. The tsunami destroyed over 120,000 buildings and displaced hundreds of thousands. Roads were ripped apart. Entire towns vanished beneath the waves. In the city of Sendai, security camera footage captured haunting scenes. Cars being swept away like leaves, homes crumbling under pressure, and people desperately climbing rooftops to survive. But the tragedy didn't stop there. The tsunami caused a catastrophic failure at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. As seawater flooded the facility, backup generators failed, leading to core meltdowns, radiation leaks, and the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl. Yet amid the horror, there were stories of strength. Emergency workers known as the Fukushima 50 stayed behind to contain the meltdown, risking their lives for the greater good. Volunteers from all over Japan rushed to shelters with supplies, and communities, though shattered, came together in resilience. Japan's strict building codes, early warning systems, and well-practiced drills saved thousands of lives, but even they couldn't fully prepare the nation for such a scale of destruction. Surviving a tsunami isn't just about outrunning water, it's about facing the raw force of nature in its most violent form. Survivors describe it not as a wave, but as a wall, dark, towering, and unstoppable. The sound is unforgettable. Many say it was like a jet engine screaming toward them, or 1,000 freight trains crashing through buildings. You don't just hear it, you feel it in your bones. The water isn't clean or clear. It's black, full of debris, full of metal, glass, tree trunks, and everything torn from the land it devours. One survivor from Banda Aceh recalled being slammed by a refrigerator and nearly drowning, as the wave tossed him like a ragdoll. For those swept away, it becomes a brutal fight for survival. You can't swim, you can't breathe. Many said they just curled into a ball and let the current carry them, praying they'd land somewhere safe. In Japan, survivors reported clinging to utility poles, the tops of trees, or climbing to the second floor of collapsing buildings. Some watched their neighbors disappear beneath the water in seconds, and then there's the silence after. When the wave recedes, what's left is a war zone: mud, fire, screams, and silence. A woman in Sri Lanka described walking barefoot through flooded streets calling her child's name, hearing only the distant cries of others doing the same. The trauma doesn't end when the water leaves. Survivors speak of years of nightmares, survivors' guilt, and the heavy silence of remembering what others don't understand. The sea becomes a source of fear, not beauty. But in all these stories, one thing remains constant: instinct. Whether it was a child dragging a parent uphill, or a fisherman abandoning his boat to save strangers, survival came down to split-second decisions and human courage. Each tsunami leaves behind more than destruction. It leaves lessons in preparedness, response, and the terrifying realization that no coastline is ever truly safe. Since the 2004 Indian Ocean disaster, dozens of countries have expanded their early warning systems. Buoys now float in tsunami-prone waters, detecting abnormal sea pressure. Satellites feed data in real time. When an undersea quake occurs, sirens go off, and evacuation alerts are sent to mobile phones in seconds. Japan, already one of the most tsunami-aware nations, has doubled down. New seawalls now line much of its eastern coast. Schools hold tsunami evacuation drills monthly. Some towns even have vertical evacuation towers, Tsunamis remind us that for all our technology and advancement, we remain at the mercy of the planet we live on. But they also remind us of something else: human resilience. Every survivor carries a story, a moment of instinct, a flash decision, a voice that screamed, "Run!" or a stranger who reached out a hand. These stories are the threads that stitch hope into tragedy. Haruka, the young woman who survived in Japan, now volunteers as a tsunami educator. She visits schools not to scare children, but to teach them what to do, so they can live. Ramat, the father from Banda Aceh, rebuilt his life from the ruins. He lost family, but he now helps train disaster response teams in his community. Anna, the Swedish tourist, started a foundation to support children who lost their families in the 2004 tsunami. She says survival is not the end of the story, it's the beginning of a new one. For those of us who have never faced such waves, their stories serve as both a warning and an inspiration. The earth may move, the water may rise, but the human spirit, when tested, finds ways to stand again. As we listen to these voices of survival, let them remind us that awareness saves lives, preparation saves families, and sharing these stories might someday help someone else make it through the unthinkable. Tsunamis are terrifying, but survivors prove that even in the face of the sea's wrath, courage endures.